Hey, it's Jitney, your wellness coach. I'm back this week. I hope you're having a fantastic week. And in today's video, I want to share the 6 B's of listening. So, where would you rate your listening skills? Let's start with that. And how many times have you been in a situation where you felt unheard or just silly for sharing something so personal because you felt the other person wasn't fully paying attention to what you were saying, right? How annoyed do you get when people interrupt you or, when you're sharing something really deep and they make it all about themselves, right? It's frustrating. Well, we can't go around changing other people, but we can at least change ourselves for the better. So just kind of pause and check in with yourself and figure out, where are your listening skills? What is that muscle like for you? Are you flexing it the way you should be? Every day I wake up, every single day, truth here, no exaggeration. I wake up trying to be a better listener. The key component of my practice as a health coach is to be a phenomenal listener. Because if I don't listen to my clients, to what's actually said and what's left unsaid, I'm never going to be able to coach them to the point where they become the best versions of themselves. So do yourself that favor and become that listener, not just for yourself, for the people around you. Because when you listen well, you understand really well and you connect well. So, whether this applies to your professional life or personal life, it's a skill that is absolutely invaluable. So, without further ado, let's get started. I have these 6 B's. That's how I remember how to listen well. The first B is be silent. So, very clearly, as the phrase suggests, when someone's talking, shut up. So often I see people around me, myself included, I'm guilty of this as well, where someone's talking and I interrupt, or I may talk over them, or, I make the story about myself. And I see this with others around me too. It's what I've observed. So when somebody's talking, can we be silent? I know it's really hard, but just let them speak. Something that I was told as a kid that I remember often is, we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, right? So listen more, talk less. The second B is be present. So set those distractions aside. When someone is talking to you, do you really need to be on your phone? Do you really need to be scrolling through the Instagram posts? Do you really need to be reading the news? Can you put your phone on silent and set it aside, or put it on vibrate and set it aside? Can you turn off the television? Can you stop what you're doing and just be present with the other person and listen to what they have to say? Sometimes it could be something that's very meaningful to them, a lot deeper than just, how was your day? So take some time and actually be present. You don't have to make sense of what they're saying because it's their story to share, but all you can do is set those distractions aside and just fully physically and mentally be there to listen to what they have to say. The third B is be honest. Sometimes when people tell you something, and it's going to be a heavy conversation, you just don't have the bandwidth for it, right? You're feeling drained, you have your own struggles, and you just don't have the capacity to listen to anymore. And in those instances, it's completely okay to gently convey those feelings. It's okay to say, I really want to be there for you. I really want to listen to you. But right now, I can't do it. I'm just not in the right frame of mind. Can I reconnect with you in a day or in a couple of days or whenever you're ready? The other person is going to understand. Nobody is a monster. They're going to be like, oh no, if you feel like crap, then I still want you to be there for me because, that's what I want. If somebody does that, then we need to have a separate conversation. But most of the time, the other person is going to understand where you're coming from. At the same time, ask the person, be honest and ask the person, what do you need from me? If they're sharing something with you, ask them, do you just want me to listen, or do you want advice, or do you want to have a healthy debate? Do you want me to question your thinking, and do you want to have a conversation that goes down that road? What do you want out of this conversation? It's okay to ask that. More often than not, all people want is for you to listen. So the other person is probably going to say, I just want to vent. But there are times, when you're talking to a mentor, or in my case, when I'm talking to my father, and it has to do with finances, I do want him to question some of my moves. I do want him to question my thought process. I also want advice from him. So it all boils down to who you're talking to and what you're discussing, right? But it helps to always ask, how can I help you? What are you looking to get out of this conversation? The fourth B is be kind. So leave your judgments at the door. As I said earlier, you don't have to make sense of what the other person is saying. Somewhere they're comfortable sharing their deepest, darkest secrets with you. Maybe they trust you enough, or they just want to connect with you, and they're telling you something that makes them so vulnerable that the last thing you want to do is shut that door in their face, right? So set aside the judgments. Just listen to listen, and listen to understand. At the same time, when you're listening, it really doesn't help when you tell the other person, I told you so. Or why does this always happen to you? How do you always end up in these kind of messes? You think the other person doesn't know that? They probably do. People know what they need to do. People know what they don't need to do. It's just they choose not to do something, or they choose to do something, right? So you don't need to put yourself on a pedestal, look down on them and say, I told you so, or how do you always end up in this situation, right? Let that go, because that's not going to help. If you can't contribute to the forward momentum of the conversation and the other person's life, it's better not to say anything. Just simply listen, right? And then the fourth B is be trustworthy. So, when someone shares something with you, it does not give you the right to take that information and share it with somebody else. Don't turn somebody's story into gossip. When you take what they've told you and share it with three other people, or even one other person, that's not okay. That's not cool. And not every conversation is going to start with, oh, please keep this confidential, or please don't tell anybody this. It's assumed, when you're having a personal conversation, it is assumed that the other person doesn't go around telling your story to other people, and vice versa, right? So be trustworthy. And if you feel like you can't keep the information confidential for whatever reason, if you think what the other person is telling you needs to be shared with your spouse or your family or your team at work, then be upfront and just let the other person know. Say, look, I can't do this. I'm going to have to share this with so and so. So it's best if we don't, delve any deeper, and kind of stop, hit the pause button right here. And that's okay. It's totally okay to be upfront about that and say that. I think the other person will appreciate that a lot more than when you betray their trust, or, when it feels like it's a stab in the back. And then the 6B is be thoughtful. So if you've had a pretty deep conversation, and, the other person has shared some really personal stories, or has unburdened on you, check in with them, maybe a couple of days later, maybe a week later, send a quick text or a voice message, or if you stumble upon a really good podcast or a book or a quote that resonates with our situation, forward it to them. There are two things that happen when you do that. One is the other person feels like they matter, which who doesn't want that? And two, the other person, when they see, okay, there is a podcast that's talking about my situation, or, oh, there's a quote that applies to me and my situation, they realize that they're not alone, that what they're going through is not just a solo ride. There are other people experiencing the same thing, that are experiencing similar misery or similar pain and that are really trying to get through it in life. So it gives the person some hope and some courage to keep going and to keep being better and greater at what they're doing. So be thoughtful. Listening takes a lot of work. It's not something that we can perfect overnight, right? But I promise you, it's a skill that you can apply to any situation in life. So if you're looking to actually connect instead of isolate, if you're looking to have a conversation instead of argue, if you're looking to be understood and understand fully without judgment, then you need to have really good listening skills. So to recap, the way this works is you be silent, you be present, you be honest, you be kind, be trustworthy, and be thoughtful. Keep these B's in mind, and I promise you, you will become a better listener. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you want to learn more about what I do and how I can help you, check out my website. It's www.imperfectbodies.com. That's one word, imperfect bodies. And I will check in with you again next week. In the meantime, I hope you have a really good week. Thanks so much.